What is going on, everybody? It is a mid-major Matt joining me, the Prep Queen Ariel Epstein, on this mini pod for the Prep Queen pod. We've got a lot of Major League Baseball, afternoon baseball. Did you like the slate today, Matt?
Yeah, I liked it a lot more than yesterday's. I actually put two things in late last night, so that tells you how much I actually did like it as well.
Ooh, okay. Jumping in. So these are the props that you like. Which were the two that you put in English? Which are the two that you put in last night?
They were the top two, Soriano and Bradley. Both of those, I think one of them now is 5.5. So we don't like that one as much. But yeah, those were the two that I saw last night. Because every once in a while, I like to just make sure that, something that I can get price wise is still going to be there. And when I saw the juices of -145 and -150, I thought, oh God, if I wait tomorrow, they're going to flip to 5.5. And I do not like those numbers as much.
Yeah, you don't want to miss any of these good numbers. For Soriano at 4.5, Minnesota has been a really weird team. So I know they're averaging about 4.5 strikeouts a game overall. What is it about the Twins lately that you like that they'll strike out?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at this Twins team right now, 17 of the last 21 right-handed starting pitchers have gone over 4.5. And this is why the spreadsheet is so good, because if you look at the overall numbers, you'd say, well, Minnesota's not striking out a lot. But if you look at the recency bias, they're striking out a ton. They've gone over against all starting pitchers in 6 straight games. And they've just been a team that's striking out a lot because, they've lost a lot of guys at the trade deadline. They're a younger team now. They're playing out, the last couple of games. So the spreadsheet kind of shows you that, man, they are striking out a ton as of late. Now, Soriano is not as good ERA-wise at home, but he is good at
I know, I
strikeouts
saw
at
that.
home. Yeah, it's a huge difference for him. So that's why I'm not playing any earned runs allowed type of props. That's why we're looking at the strikeout props. And I wanted the 4.5 as opposed to the 5.5.
Well, you got the 4.5 instead of the 5.5 for his opponent, Taj Bradley, who's now at 5.5 everywhere. The Angels are striking out about 6 batters, 6 times a game against righty starters, profitable to the over. Yet now it's 5.5. So how much would you advise bettors to stay away from the 5.5?
Yeah, so if I can get a better number, or if I could have gotten a better number, then I won't take the worst number. And so, maybe you try and find a different way to take advantage of it. Taj Bradley, his last 2 starts is 13 strikeouts. Ironically, one of them against my favorite team. It feels like the White Sox, who are an under team. And the other one, I believe, was against the Padres. So that's another traditionally under team. 12 straight right-handed starting pitchers have gone over this number against the Angels. 12 straight.
Oh my God.
This is the other key here. When
I
you look
wrote
at
that yesterday. I thought I always look at the last 10. Yesterday I saw 10 in a row. I didn't even go further to see it was 11 in a row yesterday. Went over 4.5 Ks against the Angels.
Well, and here's the thing, if they're good pitchers, then of course you're going to expect the numbers. But when you see Simeon Woods Richardson, who's not really a strikeout pitcher, JT Ginn, Mason Barnett, Michael Lorenzen, Luis Garcia in his first start off the IL after a long IL stint. Like, these are guys that you're not exactly going to for strikeouts lately. If they're getting a lot of strikeouts, that shows me a guy like Taj Bradley, who's been very nasty as of late. He can certainly go over this number.
Everyone keep in mind that trend. Anytime you see a 4.5 against the Angels, it feels like a play. I'm going to switch to my card for a bit. 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty, going up against the Giants, who are striking out a decent amount against lefties this year. Just over 5 strikeouts a game. The Giants strike out against southpaws. Erod, in games against teams with high strikeout rates against lefties, he's gone over 4.5 Ks in 7 of 11. Even on the road against those teams, 5 of 6. In the day, 4 of 5. In fact, in the day overall, Eduardo Rodriguez has gone over 4.5 strikeouts in 7 of those 8 games this year. So, Matt, I'm not discouraged by an afternoon game on the road for Eduardo Rodriguez against a Giants lineup that strikes out a lot against lefties.
Yeah, they certainly do. I don't love Erod's current form. I mean, you look at the last 4 starts, Boston, the Dodgers, the Brewers, and the Guardians. You know, we know the Guardians strike out a lot against lefties, and he only had 4 in 6 2/3 innings. And so that was kind of my concern with him. He had 2 at home against the Rockies back on August 9th. He faced the Giants in San Francisco and had 4 in 4 innings.
Which is
So
why the second time around, he should do it.
well, you would hope so, yes. And the numbers with regards to the Giants side of things trend nicely, but the problem for me, at least why I didn't play it, was because the numbers on the Erod side of things don't do that.
6 of the last 10 to face the Giants. Lefties went over 4.5 Ks. Back to you, because you have a high 6.5, which is so unlike you, Matt. You never take 6, 7.5 K props, especially on these aces. Why tonight for Chris Sale?
I see, you're right, and this is not one of my favorite ones of the day, certainly. But if you look at the Cubs, you know, who are about average when it comes to strikeouts, 4.61 against lefties. The aces are the ones that get them. You know, it was really weird when they had 8 strikeouts in 4 innings against Joey Wentz at home, and Wentz only went 4 innings. But you look, Trevor Rogers had 8. I guess we have to throw him in the ace category. Cameron had 7. Rodon had 8. Framber had 6. Heaney had 7. Luzardo had 10. So, like, if you go back throughout the season, they've done really well against the lefties that you're supposed to do really well against, and they've struggled against the other ones. And I put Chris Sale in there, and Chris Sale, since coming off the IL, has been fantastic. In 2 starts so far, 9 strikeouts in Philly. He went 6 innings in that game, and then 9 strikeouts at home against the Mariners. And so I'm going to ride the wave of Chris Sale, who just has been striking out a lot of guys, and he's an ace going against the Cubs.
Every year I say this. Every year Matt comes up with a new pitcher that he rides to the end. And this year it's Michael McGreevy, who you have grown to love. You are taking him over a decently high number of 16.5 outs going up against the Seattle Mariners. And that's going to go into the fishy line segment. But why do you expect McGreevy to stay in?
I mean, he's just been this guy all season long, and I think we're getting a little bit of a discount because he only went 4 innings against the Giants last time out. But if you go and look at his August numbers, 6 innings against the Reds, 6 innings against the Pirates, 6 innings against the Marlins, 6 innings against the Rockies, 6 against the Cubs, and then 6 against the Padres. Like, he's a guy that's going to give you innings. And this Mariners team, you know, it's so funny when you look at the outs props for the right-handers against the Mariners, they either do really well or they do terrible. So we'll know pretty early with regards to this game in terms of if it's going to hit. But, like, you know, I think that this is a guy that I've been riding, as you said, in terms of the outs props. He's been a guy who's going to give me some length here. Liberatore only went 4. Michaelis went only 5. So they're going to need somebody to give some length in this game. And I think McGreevy's the type of guy who's going to do that for him.
Ooh, okay. Stay tuned, everyone, for fishy lines, because Matt might have something to say about that. I'm getting Clay Holmes tonight. I am very nervous about this. The numbers are just mathing, and I have to go with what the numbers say. So Clay Holmes on the road at night has had at least 15 outs in 7 of 8 starts. He's also averaging 16.5 outs in those spots. Pitchers against your Phillies are averaging 15 to 16 outs a game, and 6 of the last 10 righties to face Philly went over 14.5 outs. The number just feels kind of low. I probably wouldn't take a 15.5, 14.5 for Clay Holmes. He could probably get to 5 innings.
So one of my favorite things to do with a guy like him, for the longest time, I took his out under because he was a guy who was only going 5 innings, and because I think he's getting a little tired. Now, you look at the Mets bullpen, it's relatively fresh, so that's not necessarily great. But if he pitches well, I think the live outs under would be worth a look, because I don't think he's going much more than 5 if he goes 5 at all. So we've seen this sometimes with Cal Quantrill when he used to just go 5 innings with the Marlins. He would have these first 2 really good innings, and then the books would make their outs like 16.5, 17.5. And it's like, well, no, he's still only going 5 innings. So you take the under live. So I would just say if Clay Holmes looks good early, maybe look at the live outs market and potentially go under his outs long-term, take this over and try and middle the thing if they give you like a 16.5 or a 17.5.
It's a good live betting option. I haven't really gone and ventured into the live prop market yet. I'm sure I will at some point for the NFL. Kyle Freeland over 3.5 strikeouts. It is crazy that the Rockies starter pitches better on the road. And I get it. Obviously, it's Coors Field and whatnot and altitude, but like it is a significant difference with Kyle Freeland. You would think a pitcher who's been on the Rockies would get used to being at home, get used to altitude. Yet Kyle Freeland, you would never take a K prop probably if he's at home. On the road, facing a Dodgers team that's been striking out more, I don't hate it, Matt.
So I was on the show the last time he faced the Dodgers on August 18th. It was a Monday, and I told everybody about the tremendous trend of him going over his K-prop against the Dodgers in Coors Field. Well, the research continues and says 11 of his last 13 starts against the Dodgers, he's gone over 3.5. Now, granted, it's going to be ugly. He's going to give up runs. That's why his earned runs allowed was 3.5. But like he gets strikeouts, and he had 5 and 4 innings in Coors, and would have probably had more if not for a blister that took him out of that start. So I am going to continue to play the trend. Now, it goes against my rule because I have a rule that I'm pretty steadfast about. I unfortunately broke it earlier this year, but I'm going to do it again. When I lose on a K-prop involving a team, I'm trying not to play it once again the next time. I lost to Marquez yesterday. He had 2 strikeouts. It wasn't great. But I'm going to go back to it because I like Kyle Freeland against the Dodgers because people just think he's going to get blown up and they're like, oh, well, he's not going to strike anybody out. Well, he's going to get more than 3.5 strikeouts more often than not against this team.
Especially because the Dodgers are striking out more. And in that same game, you're backing a pitcher that I was looking for a way to back, couldn't figure out how. Blake Snell against the Rockies. You have to assume that Snell is going to crush them. It's just his numbers are always super inflated, like the 7.5 strikeout prop. We haven't seen too much of Snell yet this year. 16.5 outs, only minus 115, and honestly feels a little low.
So he's only gone over this twice, and it was back-to-back against the Padres. Other than that, he's gone 5 innings, 5 innings, 5 1/3, 5 innings. So, like, he's not going deep into games. But you have to figure that a Rockies team outside of Coors against Blake Snell should have success. 11 of 16 left-handed starting pitchers outside of Coors Field have gone over this number against the Rockies. And look, I think that they need Blake Snell to do some good things here. And it's only 16.5. So we're only asking for 5 2/3. So this could be a trap. And I would hate that if it is. But I expect him to go pretty well against the Rockies in this situation and was very surprised not to get a 17.5. I'll take the over 16.5.
Yeah, I agree. 16.5 feels pretty low. And I know it's small sample size. Jack Flaherty over 5.5 Ks. I always loved this spot because there's so much drama between Jack Flaherty and the Yankees. He talked a lot of crap about them, wasn't going to go there when they were targeting him. There was all this drama. So now he's at Yankee Stadium. The only thing that scares me is he already had 9 against the Yankees in Detroit earlier this year through 5 1/3. Yet Jack Flaherty has gone over 5.5 strikeouts in all 4 starts against teams with high K rates against righties. And that's the Yankees, who 60% of righties have gone over their K prop against New York in the last 20 games, Matt.
So I'll say part of the reason why I didn't get involved here was, as you notice on our spreadsheet, I'm 0-2 in Yankee games, and I just haven't quite figured them out yet in terms, and I know it's weird to say this because it's September, and I should probably have done that by now, but like they're just kind of all over the place. You know, they lean more to the under, but they average over 5 strikeouts per game, so you would figure they'd be an over team when it comes to strikeout props. So I just haven't figured them out. Casey Mize getting 8 strikeouts, and then Max Scherzer getting 8 and 4 1/3 innings. Like, that definitely benefits you. The last time I played a Flaherty thing was I played his under against my White Sox, and it hit because he went under. It was 6.5, and they had 6 strikeouts. And then last time out, he had 2 strikeouts against the White Sox. So, like, I don't know what to necessarily say. My problem with him is if he gets rocked, he could be out early, and we've seen he has not pitched well as of late. That is my one concern here, because the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Phillies are the type of offenses that can just blow you up early, and then you don't get a chance to get to that 5.5.
Not sure what the weather's going to do here in New York today, because it said that it wasn't supposed to rain anymore, and it has been raining all morning. You can't trust the weatherman today in New York, but it is disgusting here in the Manhattan area. So just buyer beware. Matt, I know that you had a prop on this game, but this is my fishy line. Fishy line of the day. St. Louis Cardinals at the Seattle Mariners. This line moved 10 cents against the Mariners overnight. Public is backing this hot Seattle team. They've also been playing very well at home. Yet the money and the movement is all favoring St. Louis, who you like the over on the St. Louis Cardinals starter tonight, his outs prop. So I guess these two are correlated between Michael McGreevy and Seattle. Like, I find it fishy. Logan Gilbert pitches better at home. Seattle's been playing well at home, and yet the line's moving against them. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think some weird things occasionally happen when it comes to the last game of a series. We never know necessarily if there's going to be guys who sit. We kind of worry about this stuff on Thursdays and Sundays usually because that's the kind of weird time when you've got the start of some series and the end of some series. You've got the Cardinals who are on out in the West Coast. They're going to head to Milwaukee after a day off on Friday to Friday. I like Gilbert at home. It's funny. Gilbert used to be an outs over guy. He used to be an outs machine over guy, but he's started to get back to that 6 innings and 3 straight starts. I don't like fading him at home. It is kind of weird considering I would probably lean to the home team in this situation.
I know. That's why it's a fishy line. And there are some others that kind of caught my eye. And I could get your thoughts on those too. Last night, I think this line moved because of the result of the game. Before this game ended, San Diego was a minus 178 favorite over the Reds at plus 150. And now San Diego's minus 148 and the Reds are plus 126.
I think part of that is Andrew Abbott. I mean, Andrew Abbott's been very good for the most part, 2.88 ERA. Now, granted, his last couple starts have not been very good. He was terrible in Arizona, his last road start. He's no longer been the outs over guy that we thought he was. I like Pivetta. Pivetta's been very good so far this season, but I think we're kind of looking at, a Reds team that's trying desperately to stay in the wild card hunt. And so obviously with the Mets losses, those have kind of put them back into the mix. And so maybe people are betting on the fact that the Reds are trying to close a little bit more when it comes to the wild card.
And lastly, it was the Rockies Dodgers, but I'm going to tell everybody. So the line went Dodgers minus 350 to minus 335. We know that Matt likes Kyle Freeland to go over 3.5 Ks, but I'm going to tell everybody I don't ever deem the Dodgers a fishy line because it happens that these groups end up buying in on the Dodgers or buying in on the opposite side of the Dodgers, especially when they play the Rockies like every night before. Then they buy back on the Dodgers right around 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I feel like you got to be careful of these fishy lines when it comes to Dodgers, especially against a team like the Rockies.
Well, and plus the interesting thing is what the run line's usually 2.5, maybe 3.5. I mean, you don't get that very often. I think you're getting that because I think a lot of people just blindly bet underdogs because they're like, oh, they're much of an underdog, and we know Snell at times can be a little wild and stuff like that. But I think that's a lot of just people blindly betting the plus 280, plus 290, just
people
to say,
like to bet numbers.
Yeah, exactly. That I've got this ticket, so therefore I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, or like Yanni the Greek always says, these groups will buy in on the other side and then buy back when they get the right number on the other side. So it's a lot of market manipulation, especially with the Dodgers. Everybody make sure to check out too Mid-Major Matt. He has why is this not working? Thanks StreamYard for whacking out. Mid-Major Matt has his newsletter that everybody should check out. You could just subscribe for like just under $6. You get all his college football information for the football season. Matt, any preview into what we can find for this coming week?
So Thursday's newsletter, which should be going out tonight, tonight's newsletter for tomorrow is going to have my thoughts on the Wake Forest NC State game, which is the only game being played. And then, of course, there's also a lot more FCS, FBS games. The numbers aren't out for them yet, but I give you a couple of games I'd potentially look at when it comes to the numbers, depending upon where it is, because it's always important to know which coaches take these games more seriously and which coaches don't. I'll be fascinated to know what Belichick does in his first FBS, FCS game. He's the type who I think would go nuts and score a lot of points. But I also think there's a chance he might use this as a teaching moment and play a whole bunch of players. So it's just kind of information in terms of against the spread numbers for head coaches in those games. But there's a couple of lines, depending upon what the numbers are, I'll be very interested in. And you'll find that out in the newsletter that'll be out tonight.
top-notch analysis of all those college football games from Mid-Major Matt. Go to theprepqueen.com and you can subscribe to his newsletter. Mid-Major Matt, thank you as always for coming on here and talking Major League Baseball props with me. You're the best. Good luck with your bets tonight.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.